Welcome back, everybody. Still your host, Marv Swan, joined by Middlecott in the middle, with Melvin is on the other side. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Great to be back. Great to be back. I didn't interrupt you there, Lexi. So we're going to have a much better time this time around.
Or is it going to be strictly worse because the banter has been destroyed and everything is terrible and disaster is everywhere? Melvin, save me here.
I purposely muted my mic so I couldn't mess anything up initially, so I was prepared. I had hand on the button ready to go, slapping it, no chance of messing up, but hopefully we can see the Hawks do the same thing and have no chance of messing up this one as they face off against Sengoku.
It's going to be a lot harder as Sengoku were our second place team in the regular split of 2021 spring. And coming into this one, gentlemen, what are your expectations for Sengoku Gaming? They've kept with their original roster from spring. No changes have been happening. Actually, to put that in first, no changes among any roster except for the Detonation Focus Me Super Team, which we'll talk about way later. And we've already talked about on our podcast. Again, I'm plugging the podcast. Go listen to our podcast on audio streaming platforms as well as YouTube channel. Sengoku Gaming, I'm coming over to you first, Melvin, for this one. What's your expectations for Sengoku Gaming?
I'm hyped. I got the little flare on Discord. I'm ready for this team. Second place rated. I'm pretty sure this is going to be their time to shine. And if it's not on this patch, I don't know when. We have got, taking a look, a Felios Draven buffs. We've got 3 people that come to mind then. You got Teddy from T1. You got Hansama from Rogue. And you got Gango from Sengoku. This is a solid patch for them, and they should be popping off.
Okay, Gango in the bot lane for Melvin. Middlecott, coming over to you. Have you got anyone on Sengoku you're particularly excited for?
I'm pretty hyped for Crash right now. Played a lot of Hecarim and Udyr in the spring split, and somehow those champions are still in the meta. Well, Hecarim is just coming back on this patch with the Divine Sunderer buff, so I'm imagining that he's going to be crashing into the enemy jungle and causing a ruckus.
Oh god, the puns are wild and free, but I must bring us back against the Hawks, as the Hawks did look rather strong in this early game. They had fine vision control early game. I'm going to give them a pass. It's like a C-. You're like, it's technically a pass, but your mum and dad are going to look at you. Yeah, your mum and dad are going to look. Yeah, exactly. They're all words, but good job. Just try and do better. How do you expect this early game? Because this early game, they're not going to get the bot lane advantage that they had against Crest Gaming Act. This is a completely different beast, and you've already covered it. Melvin, come back to you for this bot lane. How do you think the bot lane matchup is going to go?
I think this time they may still get Senna for Zenith, and we saw it last time. It is beatable on this current Divine Sunderer iteration. And I think if there was a team who is going to challenge you in the bot lane early, it's going to be Gango and NT. These two are more than willing to throw down the gauntlet at you aggressively. I say throw down the gauntlet, they're actually just going to throw the gauntlet at you at this point. No more frozen gauntlet for Zenith. They are just going to get beaten over the head if they lock in this Senna. Corporal will have to play out of their mind.
With that said, then looking back to the jungle, Crash was crashing everybody's party when he came in. Had to fill very big shoes, though. Remember, he was filling for Blank, who is now over back on SKT, well, former SKT, now on KT Rolster's substitute. Weird scenario. We'll talk. Not for us to talk about. He's former LJL alumni, so we wish him all the best. Tussle had a pretty good showing. I was very hesitant in watching Tussle coming into the split. You can get my thought over on our podcast. Still linking back to it. But if you're not sure about it, Middlecott, where are you sitting with this matchup for the junglers and then maybe our mid laners?
I feel like Tussle did have a good showing last game, did have a couple of very nice equalizers, but was still getting caught out a little bit, just stepping a little bit too far forward. And I think Crash is the sort of player that will punish that heavily. Someone that did have a very good performance last game was Dasher, though, on the Victor, up in CS versus Nahin's Lucian, which isn't a phrase I thought I'd be saying. Does have to face off against Ramone now, who is no slouch, but I've got a lot of hope for the Softbank Hawks, particularly coming out of this mid side.
So then, if we're saying that's the case, we're saying that bot lane is probably slightly favoured Sengoku, but Corporal is just built differently. Midnight, our fellow Australian caster, joining us later, ladies and gentlemen, check that out. obviously was very proud, and he was saying Corporal's just built differently. He was playing these team fights around. Maybe he can build differently, Tyler 1-esque, and keep things stable. Mid lane, Dash had a performance. Maybe he can stop Ramune, and maybe something can be happening. And Tussle definitely showing that maybe Crash might not be able to do it. So then, gentlemen, we have to look to the top lane. Middlecott, who's taking top lane then?
Paz.
Melvin. No. Shh. Melvin. Who's taking top lane?
Oh, I'm less confidently going to say Paz because I didn't dislike what Appleman was bringing last game, but
okay.
I think that it's probably still Paz.
Okay, so one, why is no one in Appleman's corner? I'm disappointed. And two, why are you both going with Paz?
Well, I feel like last game, Appman did have a decent showing, but in the big team fights where Crest Gaming were able to pull it back, the ultimates just weren't there from the Gnar. Did pull out one very nice Gnar after the Elder Drake fight, but it was already lost by then, and Hawks just had to sort of run with their tail between their legs. I feel like Paz is a player which is a lot more likely to show up in those big occasions, in those late game skirmishes, in those late game fights where you need someone to be on point.
For myself, I take a look up there, and my reason is Appleman showed they'll play the Nocturne, right? And looking at the main contested pick between these two of the Aatrox, Nocturne is meant to have a great time there. And then taking a look at other things that Paz has got in the pocket, not many of them act as particularly good answers to said Nocturne. We saw that the Hawks will first pick it, and I imagine it might be a similar spot this game.
Melvin, wasn't it Nap that played the Nocturne?
Oh, sorry, I'm getting that backwards. Never mind, they're screwed. Go on.
We have... Okay, so Paz is just going to take this. Appleman on his Gnar was not good enough, even though we are the hyperbolic time chamber for Gnars. It's why when Ebby went international and he showed off this Gnar, it was international worthy. But gentlemen, your predictions then, if I'm understanding correctly, what did you go with, Melvin, first?
I'm gonna go for Sengoku, and I definitely remember who's on this team now. I just had a little bit of a mental flash right there, but I'm very confident with Sengoku gonna be able to take this game, and I believe it will be almost certainly off of Gango running through this bot lane.
So you only forgot the top laner of the Hawks, so it's okay. It's not even Sengoku.
Not their team,
you knew Sengoku Gaming. You're siding with Sengoku. You went with the side you believe in. Middlecott, who are you taking?
Yeah, I feel like it's Sengoku, and I've got to echo Melvin Izzle's point. I feel like Zenit and Corporal, they sort of had a little bit of an easy time. They were fighting with like a toddler, but now they're going up against the Mike Tyson that is Gango and NT. I feel like there is a very rough lane ahead of them, and I feel like Sengoku are just going to be able to take it from there.
So while we wait for our players to hit the stage, I believe they're actually on the stage now. They're just getting last bits tuned in. I want to ask a very important question, and it's something you actually brought up earlier, Melvin, actually. No, I was about to give credit to the wrong person, then I remembered, no, Colorcaster. Colorcasters stick together. Zenit on this Senna. Now, we've all had a conversation about being concerned for Zenit if they're not on this Senna. They got the Senna. They lost on the Senna. Corporal, regardless of how built differently, was not able to get there, and some well-played Nocturne spell shield prevented a few of those ultimates coming out from them. I have to ask you both the question, what happens when Zenit doesn't get this Senna, and if it's banned against them, what do they do? Middlecott, I'm not going to let you go first, because Melvin actually brought up the point, so he gets to take the floor first.
I'm trying to remember the last two bans that we had last game. I believe it was Samira, and there was another ADC
Ezreal had already been banned, so I honestly can't remember off the top of my head.
This is why you should have come to me, because I was about to say it was the Samira and the Callista.
There you go.
Which are strong champions in the early game and potentially would be able to stand up to Gango. So I think if Zenit is taken off the center, I think he defaults back to one of those. If they're off the table, probably just going to be something safe like the Ezreal and the Varus to try and prevent himself from just getting stomped in the bot lane.
But he's against Gango, an NT. NT is our tried and tested third place player. Always gets there. Only the first time they technically hadn't done it since 2017. Yes, 2017, if I remember rightly. You can fact check me in Twitch chat. I don't care. Since he hadn't been top 3, and it was only because of playoffs that he didn't get third. If you just look at regular split, man is still doing top 3 placements minimum. It's unreal how consistent this guy is. And Gango, I think I really want to hype up Gango, because this man is well and truly, remember on 2020 Crest Gaming Act, Aria and Gango were how a majority of games were just secured from the side of Crest Gaming Act with that anchor in the top lane of Nap. If we come here, we can just look at this and go, arguably, he has better parts in most roles outside of probably mid lane.
Just looking at some of the potential champions that may come out this game to kind of supplement that. And
Yes.
we were talking about the potential Phelios and Draven for Gango that can just run through the game. But it does not mean that is essential. They do not have to stomp the lane, is something I want to put emphasis on. We've had hyper carries in the meta just passively sitting there waiting. There is always the chance that we just get them default to something like the Jinx, or maybe even play Kidnapper and take away Zenith's Senna, because we saw last game, it got all the way to 4th pick, so it is definitely contested.
Well, gentlemen, we have just got pick and ban phase, so please take it away.
Yeah, we are into picks and bans for our second game of the day. We're seeing the Hawks banging away the Ezreal and that Thresh, two of the premier champions in the bot lane, and then Akali removed by Sengoku. We don't want to see any more of that champion.
Rightfully so. Get this disgusting powerhouse out of our mid and top lanes. It is a terror as the Lucian Thresh off the table. This is, again, taking away the option for some of those hyper carries away from Gango, because without the Thresh, without the Karma, who has now been banned away, it makes it a bit more sus to lock them in.
Yeah, a little bit of a sussy backer if you pick those champions up. Karma, obviously, very strong flex pick, can go into multiple roles, which is why we are seeing it perma-banned, because she offers so much utility in basically every single part of the map and every single stage of the game. Final ban gonna be that Xena, so Zenit not going to be able to pick that one up and pilot it. Will have to go down to some of the lower tier ADCs for himself.
Knowing that's banned here, though, does mean that they at least get the decision to first pick an ADC if they want it. The Lee Sin did sink through the bans last game. We never saw them. Is still that Triflex powerhouse, but has notoriously been better on the red side, as we will actually get the set blind first. Corporal and Upperman going to threaten the flex again.
Yeah, and we did see it flex last game, locked in first for the Hawks, and then was only revealed to be a support pick in the final rotation. But with no Senna on the table, we could see them put that in the top lane, more likely to default it there, as it is an incredibly strong blind pick. The Lulu Hover coming out now, very good enchanter. Her items are very strong right now and can be paired up with an AD carry, like the Kindred in the jungle coming out very early.
Okay, that was a snap locket and a half. I was going to comment on the fact this Lulu does have the option to go in any lane of their choosing. And frankly, this leaves you with more questions if you are looking from the Hawks. Because they can always just send this Lulu bot lane, lock in a Kog'Maw or something like that, and then you have problems on problems, as it looks like we're going for a lot of disruption in the Rumble Lee Sin lock-ins from the Hawks.
Yeah, but there's some weird anti-synergy going on here. Obviously, the Set and the Lee Sin very good at removing someone from that Lem's respite, but if Crash is just able to pop that ultimate down on top of the equalizer, then Tussle has a much harder time actually finding power from his champion's kit. So it's going to be very interesting to see how those interactions are played around us. Ramune is going to be locking in that Gnar, probably going towards Paz in the top lane, probably not going anywhere else.
Is going to act as a takeaway from that Gnar we saw from Apana, and definitely not Nocturne, as we will hit into the second rotation of bans now. And for me, the question is, what supports do you get rid of, if any? Because we saw that Corporal played this set bot lane last game, but that was with the Senna. So it makes it a bit worse with most other matchups, as the Kai'Sa will actually be the first bot lane ban in the second rotation from Sengoku.
And something I just want to touch on, we've likely seen both top laners And jungler's already locked in, and Gwen has not been in sight at all. Wasn't picked or banned in our first game of the day either. So teams really not seeming to prioritize this champion, which is so strong in the meta. The Leona coming out now, the third support bang from Softbank Hawks, really focusing towards this bot side.
Getting rid of that Zoe away from Dasher, saying that we really do not want to risk it. And there is the Respect Cogmore banned away by the Hawks, saying we do not even want to mess with Gango on Cogmore with a Lulu in pocket. Understandable. Have a nice day, as it looks like they're going to lock in the Brom, guaranteeing this Lulu to go into a solo lane.
Yeah, but there's still so much flexibility around. I have heard whispers of Kindred ADC. I don't imagine it's going to be picked up this game because why would you just bring that out in your first game? It's a little bit risky. You save that for a little bit further down the line when you need to bring out the spice. Kalista now being hovered for Zenit, locked in. We said that he'd likely default to another one of these strong early game champions, and he does pick that up with the Spear of Vengeance.
If we do see this Kindred heading down to bot, they actually act very similar to that of the Kalista. And paired with the Brom, they could be an absolute menace in the lane. As now, it looks like Corporal will grab that Rakan. We get their carry performance, fingers crossed, as there's the Draven hover.
Oh, I don't know if this is a Hylissang roleplay. Loves to hover the Draven and the Orianna, respect for his girlfriend, but it has been buffed recently, so if it gets pulled out here, definitely would have potential, especially matching up against Kalista, who is a very low-range AD carry and can get bullied out with ease. And it is going to get locked in. The axes are going to start whirling in the bot lane.
I could sing the Draven theme song of just Draven in my head. I could hear the chanting, and the absolute bait hovers right there, swapping twice over, as now we're going to get the final positions. It will be double support, double ADC comp coming in from Sengoku. This is a high skill ceiling comp that requires a lot to make work, and they are facing down the massive utility centered on Zenit's Kalista of all things.
You can't talk about the Kalista, man. It's got to be about the Draven. Gango is an old school Draven player. Played it back in LCK and beat T1 with it somehow. Not that T1, the other T1. Not the bold guy. The actual very good League of Legends team. So has experience on this champion, and it's going to be so exciting to see him pilot it.
And with that Lulu and the Brom paired, they do have everything they need to make it work. And frankly, even if they absolutely sprint it at one point, they have a Kindred in the pocket. So you're looking at this game saying, I don't know how I feel for the Hawks. They have good tools to disrupt, but they absolutely need an early game lead, because this Kalista falls off. This set falls off. This Lee Sin, kind of even, but frankly, when they're against double ADC, falls off. So you need the Hawks getting something done fast in this game.
And did you know a little fun fact? Draven is actually one of the highest win rate ADCs beyond 35 minutes because he just outputs so much damage. Yes, he's very strong in the early game, and Gango is going to be utilizing that to its full potential as well. But once these supports start to come online, as we crest later and later on into the game, the Draven is still going to be outputting loads of damage, and I don't really feel like the Hawks have got a reliable way of actually getting on top of him.
One of Draven's biggest weaknesses, as is with these short-range ADCs, is getting outranged. In reality, nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, has anything that outranges Draven on the enemy team. Nobody can auto-attack from that far away. The only thing they have are either massive Rakan engages from the opposite side of the map, Lee Sin jumping in, or the Rumble Ultimate. All of those things typically require some level of setup. And you only Rumble ult if you've got everything to follow it. So when you're against two supports and a Kindred backing up Gango's Draven, this is a terrifying prospect to look at, and I am extremely excited to get to see him play it out.
Yeah, it's all going to be on Corporal this game, I feel, if he's able to find those quicknesses, if he's able to magnificently enter and jump on top of the Draven, get him knocked up, and then start wombo comboing him down. Said that he was going to carry 15 games this split. Tried to do that last time around in their loss earlier today, but wasn't quite able to pull it out. We'll be looking to bounce back and try and take this game.
You know, the Hawks can run away with a lead. They have built a comp that not only can do it, must do it. So we are going to, I would hope, see nothing but aggression from them. The only thing is, they have really good answers from Sengoku. This Lulu, a great mitigator of pressure. This Brom, I mean, he carries a giant shield, guys. There's a reason that they fill this role, because they are packed with slows, which are nothing but a nuisance for Zenit's Kalista, and the rest of the team needs to get stuff happening. If anything, biggest question for me is going to be what actually goes down in this top lane.
It's going to be a very interesting one to find out as we are loading onto the Rift for Fukuoka Softbank Hawks Gaming facing off against Sengoku Gaming. The Hawks dropped their first game of the day, will be looking to bounce back, but Sengoku in their first game of the split will be looking to start it off with a bang and take the win.
Dasher was absolutely massive last game. They have opted for the fleet footwork and the teleport on this set. So we're going to have to see where they can bring this pressure and how they can get the side lanes. Because frankly, it takes Ramune really doing something wrong to actually get any real advantage on the set in this lane. You usually just push in, bully the short range people, and then run to help your jungler. And when you have a Rumble, good mixed damage, I would be scared if I was Crash, because you're going to be constantly contested when you go for invades.
It's a very squishy mid-jungle duo, so could get punished quite easily. We do see the ward being dropped here, going to be cleared out as jungler starting on the top side of the map here, Tussle soloing up on the blue buff, and Crash taking this red.
Does mean that both teams recognize saying, hey, you know that bot lane with the Draven and the Kalista? We should probably pay our due diligence and be down there ASAP on these two junglers. So expect to see a contest on that bot side Scuttle Crab in most worlds. And the question is just what happens in the first few levels. Because right now, Zenit and Corporal can make stuff happen.
Oh, and they're looking to make it happen as well. The Ren comes out, gets a decent chunk onto Gango, and with the shields coming in from Corporal, they're not really able to trade back onto Zenit. We just look at the minimap here. Crash with a very accelerated path as level 2 is hit by the Brom, and they're trying to stack up these concussive blows onto Corporal, dealing damage now onto Zenit, and the pressure already coming out thick and fast from Gango and Enti.
You cannot let this Draven step up like this. There's nothing Corporal could do, but no heal, because you needed the cleanse on this Kalista against the Brom, against the Lulu, etc. So, frankly, you're in a pretty dire spot, and we barely even hit the 4th minion wave.
As we did see Crash go for a quite accelerated path, and is going to be looking to counter jungle this red away. Lots of arrows over the wall. Tussle doesn't quite have access to the smite yet. Crash is coming forward. One more hit will take it, and Crash with a very nice 3 buff going to be putting Tussle behind.
Absolutely brutal on this Rumble. You don't want these early skirmishes, but now we see a skirmish happening in the mid lane, and it's likely to make its way down to the jungle right now. Both of these players contesting for the Raptors.
As we see Corporal trying to row up on the minimap as well, but Crash has won the lottery, and that Scuttle Crab mark spawns on the bottom side, so he'll just say thank you very much and pick that one up.
Only real semblance of a respite we have is the top lane pressure Upperman has managed to secure on this Lee Sin against Gnar, but frankly it means not much. The only thing it really gets you is this potential invade onto the Raptors, which is something, but in reality, Kindred cares more about your Raptors than her own.
Yeah, and was able to pick those ones up about a minute ago. So really just a trade that Tussle is delayed in. As is about to go mega, farming those grass procs fairly happily off of Apperman. We did see a cheater recall come in the bot lane, and Gango going for a very greedy start here, picking up the cull, as we could see action in top lane soon.
They do not need the base stats to help them out on this Draven, as Paz does still have the hop away. They shouldn't be in too much danger here.
Yeah, but it's not going to be bouncing onto enemy champions, and Paz is forced to flash away. If Tussle can get a repeat gank off in the next few minutes, definitely could make the Gnar pay for that.
You have to wonder if they could have maybe saved the flash and tried to bait Lee Sin under tower there. They did have Kindred waiting in the wings, but Crash is spotted by that ward. Apperman was able to get this top lane prio. With the Kindred mark now spawning on the Grump, it looks like Tussle is going to avoid going for any more aggression and get that off the map ASAP.
Yep, and it just means that there's a bit more of a push coming in from Abman, going to reset himself and start to build towards potentially that Gore Drinker, which we do like to see on the Lee Sin, as Gango and Enti are actually being shoved in a fair bit here by Zenit and Corporal, who have a little bit of more pressure in this lane than they had a few seconds ago.
I think it may have actually been an attempted freeze from Sengoku for a minute there, truly going to the LS Academy of cheater recalling and then proceeding to freeze wave on Draven. It can't get better than that, as they've spotted Zenit on a ward, going to cancel this base and be absolute nuisances in the bot lane.
Yeah, there's no mana on the Callista now, so can't even farm from range with those Qs. Will be forced to back off and reset. So I imagine that Gango and Enti will be going for a shove here, as Crash could get caught out jumping in the enemy jungle. But with that on play onto the Rakan, looks like they're just going to be able to get out.
We'll end up just chucking down the ward that Corporal fortunately does spot and gets a bit chunked out. You know, sometimes with the increased jungle respawn timers from a few patches ago, you have a lot more downtime in between camps if you are one of these fast clearing junglers. So looking for any degree of aggression is essential. This dragon is up, but once again we have Gango back in the base picking up a pickaxe, just trying to keep at maximum power in this lane. If there is ever a fight, they want to be able to take it.
Yeah, just stacking Rorady is very nice on the Draven, because obviously that ratio on the spinning axe is huge, and it means you just need to get a couple of autos out with the Hail of Blades, and you are removing 2/3 of someone's health bar.
And with the Brom, the Hail of Blades is very important because it means you can pretty much instantly stack one of those stuns. And frankly, if you're stunned in front of a Draven who's got both axes out, you're dead in the first place. There was really no attempted escape, considering if we take a look at the map, Enti is just going very aggressive right now, completely zoning away from the CS. And I think if it was the case of a freeze, they're going to do it right here again and say, come and step up, I double dare you.
Potential issue with freezing here, though, is it does give the Hawks access onto this Drake, but with Tussle pathing towards the top side of the map, probably not going to pick that one up. And we saw early Drakes taken by this team in their previous game, but ultimately they weren't able to close it out and take the win in the late game team fights. We'll be hoping for something different from them in this game.
With no gold lead to speak of, no objective difference to speak of, we have the Herald up in 40. Last game, there were massive areas of attention paid to this objective. It does look like now there will be none of these sort. Maybe both junglers come over there at that time, but frankly, nothing really happening, which is not good for the Hawks. We talked about how they needed to get aggressive early. Last game, Zenit managed to get that first blood on their Senna with Corporal, and that was really the thing that kicked them into overdrive and actually got them the early lead. Right now, they have not got that same security.
As we do see Tussle towards the top side of the map again, but hasn't been able to grab anything just yet. Paz still without their flash for a minute and a half or so could make a play onto the Gnar, but it doesn't look like they're going to do it. May just be starting up the Herald.
And I just want to take a look at lane priority right now, because Gango and Enti, we just assume they can take whatever fight they want, and we can see it on screen right now, where if you even attempt to step up, I think even post level 6, this is going to be terrifying prospects. And Ramune is just going to contest Dasher here, but they are in a pretty rough spot considering the Tussle was equalizer range, decided not to take it though.
Yeah, Crash just going to be hitting onto their Herald here. Still has that Dance of Arrows, so he can get out whenever he wants. But we start to see Corporal moving as well. Could potentially have a fight on our hands.
Raven ult is available, but it will not be the same as sending the Rakan over there. We'll have to see where the priority goes. Mega Gnar is about to wear out. I imagine Sengoku do not want to take this fight as they rightfully back off.
Yeah, just instead going to be translating this into a couple of plates on the Draven and the Brom. Zenit playing very respectfully, trying to avoid getting dived.
Does have both summoners available, should be able to outplay anything too aggressive. Good recognition from Gango and Enti saying, hey, we're just going to take the plate and back off. Probably going to be sat pretty close to a BF sword if they want to go for something, but I'm not sure what the Draven first item is as of current. I've seen Essence Reaver as a potential shout, but they went for this pickaxe over the Sheen, so we'll have to find out what they go for. Frankly, the world's their oyster for Gango right now. They are going to have whatever they want once this cull cashes in, so we'll have to see what they can do with that, since the Hawks have the Herald, but have not got started yet.
Yeah, they haven't really got the lane priority in order to place it anywhere. Sengoku are just going to be picking up this Drake in return. No one really in range, as Zenit was forced to back away, and that one's just going to be going over to Crash. Picks that one up pretty much for free.
So let's just take a look at what this means for both teams. And we're looking at the Hawks. They had such an encouraging performance in the first game, but it was all around the objectives that they fell apart. Barons, the Elder Dragon, they just couldn't make it happen. But it was their early lead that let them get to that point in the first place. Right now, nothing to speak of. They have the Herald traded for the Dragon, and frankly, that really doesn't mean much. We need to see it get used, and we need to see Appermen potentially do something on their first Lee Sin game we have before you here.
Yeah, they may be looking to grab something in the mid lane right now as we see the bot lane rotating up. If they could grab this mid lane tower with Tussle here, they would get themselves so much map pressure. No TPs available for Sengoku, so this should just be falling down in the Hawks' favor, and this would be a massive objective for them.
It will be, but it is split amongst many people, which isn't exactly what you want to do with Herald pushes, because while you will get the first blood tower, it does in reality just mean that everybody got about half a kill's worth of gold in reality. So is still significant, but isn't going to be a massive swing, barely 500 gold lead, just because across the map we saw Crash rewarded with a mark. They're at 2 now, getting close to that range increase at 4. Bot lane, we actually saw Gango was a bit indecisive and was not able to fully punish by getting some tower plates there, but we'll have to see what ends up happening in the coming minutes, because now that Herald is gone, but that Infernal Dragon will go nowhere for Sengoku.
Yeah, but this does mean that Hawks have the opportunity to push that vision line a little bit further. That's the reason that you like taking out this mid lane tower as early as you can, because it just means that those objective setups that they struggled at in the previous game, especially later on, were potentially going to be a bit better for them this time around.
And when you have... really nice from
really?
Gango right there, cancelling the base.
Gango, that's just
rude.
toxic. That's toxic, man. Come on. Draven players, SMH.
So one of the things that I want to see right now to punish that first blood tower going down, like you were saying, is I need to see Appermen use this Iron Spike whip on the Lee Sin, clear the wave instantly, as is the champion's purpose with Emax, roam to mid, and try and ward hop over and bully Ramune. They are the most vulnerable player on the team right now, and you need to do something to them, because right now 0 kills at 12 minutes, this isn't great.
Oh, Crash might be even more vulnerable. Does have the Lamb's Respite. Going to be forced to flash away, but the damage comes out from Dasher, grabbing the first kill for the Hawks.
Excellent play right there. You really wasn't expecting that on Crash's side, not using the ultimate. And with the Dragon not up right now, there will be no further punish, but it is a significant cause because they do deny a mark away from Kindred.
Yeah, and you get a little bit more gold in your mid laner, which is always going to feel nice as we see the replay coming out here. Crash spotted on a little bit of vision and Dash doing a little bit of a secret mission of his own.
Oh, it's beautiful. Just complete recognition. They're on a trail as they chuck them over, get the stun with the Raptors. So beautiful. And then the flash W, absolutely cracked play from Dasher.
Really, really nice. He was the standout player for Hawks in their previous game, and he is making the plays again. This time, it's not on the victories, on the set, who is a champion that really thrives at getting in the middle of these fights, grabbing people and doing as much damage as he can.
Still, it's only a kill. There is barely a gold lead to speak of right now as Crash... Oh, no.
That's the second time that Crash has smited away a camp from Tussle. The counter jungling from the Kindred coming in pretty nice, able to generate a small CS lead for himself on that pick.
Very different to what you might recall if you were watching MSI, where the Kindred just couldn't keep up with Rumble after those nerfs they had a while ago. Now it is the case where the Kindred, as long as they're playing aggressive, they could be the Punisher, as we have seen. Crash did get knocked down for their overzeal, but taking a look at this game right now, they have secured the Kraken Slayer. Insane damage coming in, as it is pretty much net neutral for the plate gold picked up.
Yeah, not massive. Even though the Softbank Hawks did have that Herald, so that's just showing how good Sengoku's play is. I think that's all been in the top lane from Paz, has generated a massive lead against Appermen here, who, like we were mentioning, this Lee Sin is all about getting wave control. He's all about getting wave clear. And Appermen, in his first career Lee Sin top game, hasn't been able to do it.
They just haven't really had that kind of setup to go to mid. They haven't been as proactive on the map as you want to see, because it's one thing to punish a laner, but this region has such good Nars. Everybody is so experienced on the champion. Gnar and Renekton really the staples of the top lane for the LJL. Paz, no stranger to the pick, and is so hard to actually get stuff done against them as this dragon is being started up. The TP is available, but no Mega Gnar to speak of.
Yeah, as Dasher is going to be making his way to the bot lane. It's just a 4v5 for Sengoku right now. Dasher is going to be able to get that showstopper over the wall. Comboed very nicely with the equalizer, but the Lamb's Respite comes down, keeping them alive for a little longer, but it's not enough. Gango forced to dash away with the Gale Force, and Paz is there on the back line going, where the hell is my team?
Everybody just blown up. Finally, the Hawks decide to get something done. Flying away of that one, they will pick up the Cloud Dragon, and I think almost more importantly, get Gango's Flash. They have the Gale Force now, which allowed them to stay alive in that play, but let's take a look at what happened. It was the TP from Dasher, and they have been the man of the match for last game, and presumably this one. Another ult onto Kindred, how beautiful! Layered with the equalizer, they are smurfing today as they manage to fully wombo combo, make absolute advantage of the Kindred ult, so no chance of a turn back, and Gango, but even if they had it, they weren't able to get much done, having to escape there at the end.
Tussle hit 3 people for the full duration of that equalizer. Corporal knocked up 3 people as well. Just look at the damage there. Crash was blown up immediately. The only damage that came out was that wolf passive damage, as Afman's trying to go aggressive onto Gangu, who can kite away with those axes and with that blood rush, and maybe looking for a bit more of a fight, as that's going to be the flash kick. Oh my god, Afman, what the hell was that? Enti trying to kite away, but the Lee Sin is so much stronger, not going to take the fight. Holy moly, Afman.
Beautifully done, punishing that flashless Draven. We were talking about it at the end of the play. More important than the Dragon for this team, because if Gango gets behind, if Crash gets behind, suddenly you're 2 supports and a Gnar with no backup. And right here, God. Gango wants the play. There is an initial trade where they kite backwards, the Gore Drinker procced, but they continue to chase, knowing that they have support in tow. They think, hey, me and Enti have got this. Appleman seeing that beautiful read, flash queuing to avoid the Brom shield. So excellently done.
Appleman, mate. This is your first Lee Sin game. What? You're not supposed to be doing stuff like that on the champion. You're an Ornn gamer. You're a Gnar player. You're a Renekton player. You're not meant to have mechanics like that. That was sick.
I like to have the official jungle seal of approval for when a Lee Sin laner actually just pops off. Blabber got it for their absolutely disgusting ward kick with the stride breaker that they had at MSI. That was pretty close. Upperman, if you keep that level of performance up there, you're getting that jungle seal of approval. We have to see if they can finish the game, though. That is where the Hawks have their problems. They get the early lead. It took them a bit longer than last game, but they've got it again. Now the question is, what do they do with it? They have Corporal on this Rakan. With the Callista, they have all the tools. It's just using them.
Yeah, and obviously Gango without that flash is going to be caught out here. Dasher taking a load of damage. Equalizer not great from Tussle, as Crash might just be looking to pick this one up. Appleman going on to the backline, but that's already 1 kill going in favor of Sengoku. Corporal going to fall for a second. Double kill for Ramune, and this is the overstep. Appleman trying to kick away as Paz is here on the backside. The kiting out from Zenit isn't quite there as the speed ups from the Lulu start to come in. Lee Sin just getting chased down. Crash flashing forward. And Zenit is going to be dying under his tower. No, the Immortal Shield Bow comes out just in time. And Appleman, with the axe follow on the Ward Hub, gets taken down. 3-0 for Sengoku.
Pausing after the abuse, that was that fight right there. Very nicely done from Sengoku, punishing the overzealous stepping up of the Hawks. They had just picked up the lead. It was looking so good. And then it just fades away ever so fast, as the gold lead is now back down to 1,000. Items pretty much net even across the board, as we will be thrown into the pause just waiting. Let's see what on earth we could take stock from that game so far.
Yeah, I just want to give a special shout out to Gango. It feels bad when you're playing Javen to get shut down and lose all of those stacks, because it's something like you lose 75% of them. That's a lot of potential gold going away. Feels even worse when you get a kill almost immediately afterwards. So a lot of that gold that Gango wanted to start snowballing on this Javen has been denied, and it's really not in a great spot right now on the champion.
Is a required answer to Gango's Draven. If you let them get snowballing, then the game will just end in front of you. And with this comp they have built around it, they have absolutely more than enough tools to keep them alive. Only thing we can say for the Softbank Hawks scaling is with both the Lee Sin and the Set, they do actually have ways to remove both ADCs from the Kindred ult. If everything goes perfectly, and I mean absolutely perfectly, there is the setup. We've seen Appleman is more than confident to pull the trigger if he sees Gango stepping a bit too greedy. So maybe the Hawks have a way back into this if the game does go late. It's just avoiding objective fights for them, because frankly, they couldn't do it last split. They couldn't do it earlier today. I don't think they'll have suddenly learned how to do it one game later.
There's hope. Maybe this is the moment where they see themselves fall down and then they come right back up with clean vision setups and objective fights. Maybe not, though, as we did see Sengoku turn it around that Drake, able to get a 3-for-0 very nicely off a few oversteps from Tussle and Dasher, who has been the main man for this team so far.
They have had a great performance in this one, and while it was slow at the beginning, we wanted to see some actual roaming to the side lanes. Typically, when this set would go into the mid lane, it would be paired with the Ghost, so they could just chain roam into the jungle. They do have the teleport this game, reduce cooldown the more levels they get, so longer the game goes, the better they can look for those flanks from TP wards. But they've still managed to get the tempo rolling. They had a disgusting first blood. That is something that I would love to have as a clip at some point, just because of how beautifully done it was. That was perfect recognition of set damage, absolute confidence too. Taking Crash by surprise, they did manage to pick that one up. So, let's take a little step back and say what is happening in the game right now. I believe it is 5-3, as we are finally getting back into it, a dragon apiece. So, what's going to happen next? Let's take a look.
Well, what's going to happen is we see towers falling across the map. Sengoku able to pick up that mid one. Dasher able to take down this bot lane outer, as Ramune is maybe feeling himself here. Puts the blue ward down, but isn't going to chase any further. Knows that the set can just turn it around with ease. And the gold lead, which Softbank Hawks did generate for themselves, has been reduced, like we mentioned before we go into the pause, and the Drake count is equalized as well. So you'd have to feel that the late game composition from Sengoku is at a pretty good point right now.
And taking a look at the inventories, I want to bring attention to Tussle with that second Herald ready to go. We need to see them use it on that mid lane, in my opinion. I have to get that base opened if I am the Softbank Hawks, because the only other way you could crack open the base against double ADC, double support is with Baron. And frankly, we sure as hell know that's not gone in your favor before. So I would love to see them group up mid here, collapse down and try and sack the dragon and just say, hey, you can have one. We're going to get mid lane open so we can at very least threaten the end without having to play around objectives later on.
Yeah, it was pretty rough for them, and do not want to see a repeat of it. We did see Crash momentarily on your screen there pop up. Has now got 4 marks on the Kindred, so is going to be doing a little bit more damage and have a little bit more range, which can be so crucial against the low range composition that the Hawks have drafted. And like you said, Melvin Izzle, very easy. Just summon the Herald in the mid lane, try and open up this space.
Could have potentially even thrown down the equalizer there, but wanting to wait, and they do poke him with it. I think there would have been better in the choke, because they have St. Corporal in.
Yeah, he's jumping onto Endy here, but he is just able to flash out. Crash may be falling here, but the Lamb's Respite, very nice. Dasher going into the backline, but the heal is just enough on Crash. He was able to escape. No! Zenit takes him down.
All that health regen from the set passive, just enough to survive through Ignite, as Gango commits the flash to Dasher, does not pick up the kill, and now we will see that Sengoku are going to run to that dragon, but they need to get mid-prio first. If this minion wave comes down and is left unattended, they could just lose the tower. Instead, we have got an actual on-vision force from the Hawks. Oh god, it's a nightmare.
Oh, as Appleman's having a bit of a nightmare here, able to get the flash kick onto Gango, but that's not taking him anywhere apart from to safety. But there is no safety for Ramune and Crash, Ramune and Enti as they fall down, and the Hawks turn right back onto this Baron.
I don't think it was what they wanted right there from that kick, but it was still a net positive. But now you're in the pit against a Mega Gnar. You have to back off here. It's too scary.
Yeah, unless Dasher just goes straight forward. The equalizer not brilliant as Corporal jumping forward on 300 HP does just get out himself, but the Baron are importantly dissuaded by Sengoku.
And it's the long story short, we do end up getting the Dragon going over to Sengoku here. There is no available steel tools for the Hawks, but they most crucially put a lot of damage onto that mid lane inhibitor turret and does give them the option to play for ending the game if they do get one disgustingly good fight with these early game champions in tow.
Yeah, it felt like we went sort of the long way round, but it eventually ended up just being held into mid into that trade for Dragon. And because of that very nice fight for the Hawks, they've built this gold lead up once again, round about 3,000. But at this point, it's not as meaningful as it would have been about 10 minutes ago.
I want to interestingly mention that we just saw Crash actually mark Zenit, of all people, as the Kindred. They are at 6, so one more mark will give them an extra 25 attack range. So I find it curious that you not only pick somebody with no deaths, but you pick somebody who is so essential to the enemy team comp that the fight's probably over if they're dead.
Oh, that's the equalizer popped very nicely there as Crash is being caught out. Does have access to the Lamb's Respite and pot it at the very last moment. Now, Hawks may be caught out here, but they're just going to keep going forward. Enti's going to fall in a second as Corporal goes over the wall, and they are just diving. They are going ham. Gango's going down. Paz is on the back line trying to make something happen, but the damage comes out. That's going to be a 3-for-1, 3-for-2 in favor of the Hawks, and they will take this mid lane inhib.
Reaping the rewards for their earlier work, this is going to be so essential for them because now it gives them the security. You can go to an objective and you definitively will know if people are coming because you will be able to see based on those super minions. As right now, Dasher does it all, frankly. They do pull them out of the Rakan knockup, but I don't think it makes a massive difference. Crash managing to barely survive until they get scooted by the Brom ult out of the ultimate. Sorry, not the Brom ult. Something pushed them back ever so slightly. As we do see Gango get kicked back, absolutely decimated. No way they could do anything. Paz, while only a mini Gnar, gets a lot done here, but frankly, without that Mega, is not able to put up the 1v3 performance, and Ramune on this Lulu is a Lulu. I'm going to repeat, it's a Lulu against 3 people. They can do nothing.
And I've loved this. I've loved seeing this from Hawks as they may be fighting again, Gango blood rushing forward, but they're not quite able to find it. This proactivity, they're not just resting on their laurels, they're going for fights, they're trying to make stuff happen. And I love the set pick from Dasher. 4-0 and 5ers look very good on it, constantly finding engages as Corporal might be trying to find another one. The Shirelia's popped, but the Shirelia's in response actually coming out from Sengoku means that engage is just going to be dissuaded.
So I would say we are pretty much at the spike of the Softbank Hawks power at this point in the game. We have got 2 items on pretty much everybody of note, and it is looking at how this is going to play out here. They're actually just threatening to push down mid and get that prio into the red buff jungle. This is great stuff because you want to force them to funnel in as a team so they're safe, which unfortunately for the Sengoku squad sets up for an equalizer.
Oh, it's a very nice equalizer. Nice double knock-up as well as Crash is going to be falling. Can't even use the Lamb's Respite. Paz trying to do something on the other side of the fight. Is going to get kicked away. Is going to get jumped on. Is going to get taken down by Apperman. And the Hawks, after losing their first game, have come to play. And they are just bullying Sengoku.
Best way to not in a Baron is to never go to the Baron. Hiding out in the bush. Winning from Fog of War. It's all on Gango.
Gango's trying to do stuff, but it doesn't look likely. Does pop the ultimate. Very nice. Able to take down Apperman. There are low health bars on the Hawks, but Sengoku can't get anything more.
They are going to get chased out of the base. Very minimal damage done to turrets there, so no material loss for Sengoku as of yet. Just some deaths and no real summoners bar that Ignite, I believe. Potentially Ramune's Flash in that play. Apperman does go down. Does have the TP, though, if they wanted to force something around this dragon. But frankly, I think I prefer the Hawks' chances if they just run to the dragon instead.
Yeah, but look at this. Gango now on 3 items has that Infinity Edge. These axes are going to start doing massive, ludicrous amounts of damage. And with the Chemtech Putrefier as well, there's no healing that can come out from Sengoku Hawks, Softbank Hawks. They are just starting up the Baron, though. TP's coming in very far away. Appleman may be too far to reach here, but the equalizer is very nice. Sengoku were trapped in the pit, but they're getting the Baron anyway. Now they need to go for the fight. Dasher diving in, getting onto Gango, trying to do the damage, but it doesn't look like it's going to come out in time. Lulu is popped, and the Lamb's Respite dropped down, and Sengoku, they got the Baron, but they lose their lives, and they're just going to lose the game.
That is the absolute stomp of a fight right there. Gango being forced to flash to reposition so they can't escape the pit. The desperation play from Sengoku means they will fall, and the Hawks seem reignited after their first defeat.
They are flying high right now. Sengoku tried to make the macro play, but trading Baron for Nexus is never works. Softbank come back from their first game loss and take their second game and their first in the LJL Summer Split.
Going 1-1 on the day, so nicely done, as they will leave Sengoku asking questions about this comp, saying what can we do heading into our next game. We will see them another time today. They will be up in the next matchup against Burning Core, but we're going to throw to a very quick break before we do the post-game breakdown.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the desk. Must One is Sadly, this is my last hosting duty of the day, but I'm sure I'll be back at some point soon. Maybe extra content, who knows? I am still joined by Middlecott in the middle, and Melvin Izzle, otherwise known as Callum, on the other side of your lovely monitors, ladies and gentlemen. What a performance. We thought the Hawks might clench it from Chris Gaming Act, and they said, no, you cannot team fight. And then the Hawks went, huh, you think we can't team fight? And then Sengoku Gaming came along. Gentlemen, this early game, and coming over to you, Melvin, this early game was all things Hawks.
It was a very slow progression initially, and I was getting a little bit wary, but as soon as they pulled the trigger, it looked amazing for the Hawks. They were up 5 kills to 1, I believe, and it was just a decisive lead. They used both of the Heralds this game, and I would say they used both of them correctly to break open that mid lane and completely mitigate their main weakness.
What about you, Middlecott? What do you think about this early game?
Well, I just think this was a level up on what the Hawks did in their previous game against CGA. I think they were a bit less focused on grabbing early objectives that don't really give you too much immediate power, and they were a lot more focused on getting gold where they could. They were able to pop down both Heralds in that mid lane, did secure a Drake as well, so there was no threat of the stacking coming out from Sengoku. But overall, just very clean stuff from them in both games today.
While they are 1-1, an interesting fact that was brought up before we go into game, I have to hand it over to the man that introduced this stat to me. It's Melvin. What was the stat? Half of the games?
No, it's a quarter. I can do maths.
Oh, okay.
They won a quarter of their games. They had the same opening as they did in the spring split for the Softbank Hawks, but I would say against more impressive opponents. Last time they had a win against Burning Court and a loss to Axis. This time they have a loss to CGA and a win over Sengoku. I would say that is a more impressive start than last one, despite being the same scoreline, and is very promising because we saw adaptation. In the first game, they flipped their objectives like they were expected to and lost. In the second game, they did not flip it objectives. They said, let's flip it in the lane, and they won.
Oh, absolutely, and one they did. But Sengoku didn't go down without a fight, and one member I'd love to highlight for you guys is Crash. Crash was causing huge issues for Tussle throughout the jungle, and coming over to you, Middlecott, that's a player you even highlighted for us.
Yeah, I thought that this was going to be a matchup which favoured Crash, and I think to a certain extent he really showed up today. There's some very nice ultimates. On the Kindred, played it out extraordinarily well. Obviously, wasn't able to take the win in the game, but I'm really impressed with what I've seen from him so far.
Yeah, the counter jungling was huge and really prevented Tussle from being able to do stuff. He was having to flash over walls to run away from Crash coming into his own jungle. It was a mayhem for him. And there was a moment when I actually did think Sengoku was going to turn it around. Around the 19-minute mark, they actually were able to find a few picks, finding a pick onto Paz, onto Crash as well, and it looked... Well, no, rather, they found a pick onto Appleman, onto Tussle, the enemy top lane and jungler, partly due to actually Sengoku Gaming's top lane being around the bot lane and rotating around, getting the dragon, and really showing that they weren't going to roll over. And when it came to the mid game, I thought Middlecott, there might be a chance for Sengoku to turn this game around.
Yeah, it was a very nice fight indeed for them, and it was just it's more split up style. It ended up being, it wasn't a big wombo combo being landed by Sengoku. It was picking up one kill, then chaining it into the next one, and the Hawks weren't really able to execute properly on the wombo combo that they had on their side. So yeah, Sengoku came into the mid game. I think they were down 1,000 gold, but looking at the composition, you'd thought, okay, maybe with this hyperscaling carry of the Draven and of the Kindred, they can get further into this game and take the win.
But Melvin, how did it actually go down?
I think we have to pay particular credit over to Zenit and Dasher this game. Zenit, they came off of their loss with their main champion Senna last game and absolutely performed on this Callisto. Level 1-2 did not look good. They were getting kind of manhandled in lane by Gango and NT as we expected, but as soon as we got out of lane, once we got those initial team fights happening, they were doing amazing. Did not end up falling at any point where it ended up mattering. So nicely done. Playing one ADC against two and still coming out on top. So I think credit definitely has to go over to them, showing they are more than a one-trick pony for this split. And Dasher, we've gushed about them all day, and I feel like we're going to keep gushing about them for the split if they can keep up this form.
We'll have to wait and see. Huge call out, though, from the viewing room of our backroom staff, where I was jumping after. Huge credit over to Apperman. We were flabbergasted. The chef's kissed multiple times. The queue to just doing insect things, just very standard things. This man was able to do it rather well, and he is an Apper man, and he was definitely not an ape at all on this. He was a gorilla running through the enemy team of Sengoku and causing huge issues. Middlecourt, it feels like you've got something to say. Go on.
Man, he needs to name change to OP, man, because that was honestly disgusting. I think the big highlight play for me, yes, it was in that bot lane against Gango. The flash of Straven getting punished so cleanly in the 1v2. The flash Q into animation cancelling it with the kick is a high-level Lee Sin mechanic that I would not expect someone on their first competitive Lee Sin game to be pulling out, but he was able to do it. He played excellently in team fights and was definitely a real star for the Hawks this game.
Well, for myself and Middlecourt, that is going to be the end of us on the broadcast. Middlecourt, it's your first time on here. Have you got anything you'd like to end out?
Well, I just want to say I predicted CGA to come third, and they've done me well so far with their win. Melvin Izzle, where did you predict Sengoku coming?
My production team has advised me to say no comment.
Good man. Good man.
And yeah. I will leave you with that then.
Thank you very much for coming on Middlecourt. Melvin Izzle, you're going to be sticking around and being joined by, well, my co-founders of the LJL of Nymera and Initialize in the booth with you. But ladies and gentlemen, our next match will be coming up very shortly after this break. And if you're not sure what it is, it's going to be Sengoku Gaming looking to redeem themselves versus Burning Core. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.